Peace and blessings to everybody out there. Welcome back to the Fake Woke Podcast. I made it 2 episodes, y'all, without getting my Instagram account banned, without being called a coon, a nigger, a porch monkey, fat phobic, transphobic, homophobic, whatever you could think of. I have yet to be called or referred to as such. Anything that's negative for the time being, that means I'm not working hard enough. I feel like I have to work a little bit harder. Because if they ain't calling you a coon or a porch monkey or anything that's derogatory, that mean I'm not hitting that nerve yet. So I'm gonna get to work. But for the most part, the NBA playoffs start back up. Not start back up, but the NBA playoffs start today. The NBA playoffs start today. My Sixers are playing the Boston Celtics. I would love to watch that game, but I doubt I'll be able to watch the game. So I'm going to have to just watch the highlights, unfortunately. But this video is not about the NBA playoffs. It's about the NBA, but not the NBA playoffs. It's about how I personally feel about the NBA exploiting these social justice issues, exploiting the players in their protests, and pandering to the black community. Because it's blatant, they're pandering. You can tell. And the only reason why I say they're pandering, because if you're familiar with professional sports history, the NBA actually blackballed a player for doing the exact same thing Colin Kaepernick did. Matter of fact, Colin Kaepernick got his protest from Abdul Rauf. Mohammed Abdul Rauf. Yes, I said it. His formerly known as Chris Jackson. He got drafted by the Denver Nuggets in 1990. Overall draft pick number 3. He went at the 3rd spot. But for the most part, around 96, a little bit before 96, Abdul Rauf actually converted to Islam, or he was probably already part of the Islamic community, but he ended up converting to Islam around 1996. He started protesting the national anthem and the American flag because he felt like the American flag represented oppression and that the United States represented tyranny, and they oppressed their minority people, meaning he was talking about black people. So he was protesting the national anthem by sitting down. He ended up getting suspended for however many games. I forgot how many games, but he got suspended. He ended up losing over $30,000 per game. Yeah, $30,000 per game. Him and the NBA ended up coming up with a compromise that he will stand during the national anthem, but during the national anthem, he was actually saying a prayer during the national anthem. So that picture I was using to support this episode, that's Mohammed Abdul Rauf saying a prayer during the national anthem with his palms facing the sky. So, for the most part, the NBA ended up blackballing him surely but surely and kicking him out the league. And he never received another chance to play in the NBA after that. Sounds very familiar to Kaepernick's story, am I correct? The only thing that's different between Mohammed Abdul Rauf and Kaepernick's story, Kaepernick actually got a multi-million-dollar Nike deal out of it. Nike actually supports the NFL, which makes that shit looks kind of sketchy. No? How you gonna sit there and protest against police brutality, so forth and so on, and you receive a Nike deal? Mind you, Nike actually donated money to Blue Lives Matter, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't make sense, right? It makes sense. It makes sense to me because every time you play both sides of the fence, you actually end up winning in wars and whatever. So Nike actually won on both sides. They won on both sides. And they got a cash cow in Kaepernick because Kaepernick connected directly to the African American community. They think he's a savior. So, and guess who Nike sponsors? The NBA. The NBA. Now, here's my personal opinion about all of this. The NBA. The NBA realized that the whole thing with Kaepernick is what sparked the 2020 protests with the athletes and everything. They were monitoring it for the most part when it first started. I'm gonna go ahead and take these glasses off real quick. So they was monitoring it, and to my personal opinion, this is how I feel like it went. They was like, the players is gonna keep speaking out about this, about the social injustice that's happening, obviously, because they identify with the black community. So why not we allow them to protest? Go ahead, you can take your knee, you can wear your Black Lives Matter shirts. Matter of fact, we're gonna put Black Lives Matter on the floor, right? But we gonna police it to a certain extent. You can't speak, you can't go off the cuff. You can't speak about certain things too much. Matter of fact, we're gonna give you some slogans. We're gonna give you some slogans or whatever you want to call it that you could put on the back of your jersey. So Black Lives Matter, group economics, vote, what else? Say her name. All types of little slogans that you could put on the back of your jersey. But they gotta be pre-approved by the NBA before you could before you could put them on the back of your jersey, pretty much. This basically, they're saying this is what you're allowed to say. If you go beyond this, you're in violation. That's controlled freedom of speech. So they're making it seem like that these players have the option to freely express themselves, but in all actuality, they don't. Meanwhile, the NBA received this recognition as being a progressive organization compared to the NFL, because you see what the NFL players are saying about the NFL in general. So for the most part, the NBA come out looking like a progressive organization. In all actuality, they're controlling their players' freedom of speech and profiting off of dead black bodies, and profiting off of these black athletes and their protests. Because now you got black people flocking to watch the games because they feel like, oh shit, the NBA is on our side. They support our movement, this, that, and the third. Mind you, Black Lives Matter is not our movement. That's gonna be a whole nother video for a different time, because it's a lot about that. But the NBA is profiting off of this shit. They're controlling these players' freedom of speech. They don't have freedom of speech. Look what happened to Jimmy Butler. Some of y'all might not be familiar with the Jimmy Butler situation. Jimmy Butler plays for the Miami Heat. He's a star, small shooting guard / small forward for the Miami Heat. The first game of the remaining 8 games for the regular season, that was in the Orlando bubble. The very first game, Jimmy Butler comes to the court, takes off his warm-up uniform, and on the back of his jersey, he only has his number, not his last name, not one of the slogans that the NBA approved. He just had 22 on the back of his jersey, because he felt like that, yeah, he might be Jimmy Butler, the superstar for the Miami Heat, but he's just like the rest. He's just like everybody else. That was his protest, and I personally felt like that was a proper suggestion. I respected that. I respected that so much because he identifies as one of those people that actually ended up dying from police brutality. And he's right. That could have been him. That could have been me. That could have been anybody. So I respect that. But the NBA sat there and told him straight up, like, you have to have something on the back of your jersey. You have to take that jersey up. You have to have one of the slogans that was already approved, your last name, or both. Now tell me that's not controlled freedom of speech. Tell me you're not profiting off of our social injustice that's happening to black people. Tell me you're not profiting off of that. Because you sat there and you told this black man that he cannot have nothing on the back of his jersey. He has to have one of the slogans that you pre-approved. So basically, this is your protest, not theirs, right? That's trash. That's trash. Basically, you can only protest what we want you to protest. Like I said before, if you go against the grain, if you stray from what we want you to talk about, you're in violation. So he ended up switching his jersey out and putting the jersey on with his last name on the back, which I felt like was disrespectful. You should have let that man rock that jersey. That's why I say that the NBA is pandering to black people. And here's another thing. Not too long ago, about like 2 weeks ago, they released that they were donating $300 million to the black community. Yes, on the surface, it sounds great. Matter of fact, I was like, that's a good move. But you have to remember, majority of the NBA players are African American. Matter of fact, 80% of the league is African American. Same thing with the NFL. Now, it might sound good that you're donating $300 million to the black community, but look at this. Look how much money that black people actually generate for the NFL. I mean, not for the NFL and for the NBA. As players and as consumers, that $300 million is a small fee, small price to pay to what you're gonna make on the back end off of these future athletes' backs. You're gonna make 10 times that. And not God forbid, but just imagine if 5 of these players are mega stars, superstars like Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Paul George, Damian Lillard, because he balling right now. You're gonna make 10 times that. That's a small price to pay to receive the money that you're gonna make on the back end off of these people's backs, to make it seem like you're progressive, right? Excuse me. To make it seem like you're progressive. To make it seem like you support this movement that is not even for black people. That's why I found it, I thought it was fishy that LeBron James, the king grifter, LeBron James rebutted to what Kyrie said. If y'all not familiar, Kyrie sat there and he said that we need to sit the rest of the season out so we can focus on the issues at hand. He didn't say it like that, but for the most part, verbatim, that's what he said. LeBron James said, I can do both. I can play and still focus on social justice issues at the same time. You see what I'm saying? Kyrie Irving is part of the black community just like LeBron James is. But LeBron James couldn't get on one accord to sit the rest of the season out. Mind you, I'm not against the fact that a lot of these players wanted to play, because a lot of them are living paycheck to paycheck, so they need that check. They need that check. I respect that. Okay, like, I got it. But at the same time, LeBron James, like, that was your chance to side with your boy Kyrie. Y'all could have sat the season out, the rest of the season out, and made a huge impact. But nah, apparently he see that his window is closing, and he's preparing for life after basketball. He's gonna be a social justice warrior. He's gonna be an activist, a businessman after basketball, and this is probably his last chance to get a ring, because I think AD's contract is up after this year. I think he coming back to LA, if I'm not mistaken. I said KD, I meant AD. My bad. But yeah, I just feel like the NBA is pandering, and they're profiting off of this movement, off of dead black bodies. Now you can feel like you can say that I'm wrong. You can totally disagree with me. I'm perfectly fine with that. I respect your opinion wholeheartedly. But at the same time, it's just like, it's plain as day. It's plain as day. Everybody, all of these organizations and all of these companies are trying to profit off of dead black bodies, off of this Black Lives Matter bullshit. Netflix, they did it with the sitcoms, adding all those black sitcoms. Amazon did it with the little Black Lives Matter banner on their Fire Sticks and shit like that. I have Fire Stick, I have Amazon Prime, so I've seen it. Jersey Mike's with the bullshit BLM, whatever the fuck that meant. All of these companies and organizations, when George Floyd was murdered, they flocked to it. Black Lives Matter promotions everywhere. They're trying to profit off of dead black bodies to make it seem like they in support of your movement. In all actuality, they not, because Black Lives Matter is not even in support of your movement. It's fucked up, man. It's fucked up to see that we're being manipulated because they know that we're one of the top consumers, and right now we're in a vulnerable spot. So they're trying to grift. They're trying to profit off of us, because a lot of people was talking about we need to rebuild Black Wall Street, this, that, and the third. We need to focus on group economics, and here they come, like, nah, like we're in support. We're in support with Black Lives Matter and all this other bullshit. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Y'all full of shit. Y'all just see us as a bankroll. Fucking pussies.